It's Easter weekend, and even though we are not a religious family, for us that means family dinners, egg hunts, and various events. So I'm hopping on here to share with you what a few of the things that I am doing to focus on myself, to continue my healing, to continue my recovery from complex chronic diseases like ME, CFS, fibromyalgia, mast cell activation syndrome, POTS, etc. All of those overlapping compounding conditions that many of you live with. So, as many of you know, I am pretty far along in my recovery process. I have come much further than what was expected, and it's going really well. And I'm doing that through techniques like somatic inquiry, somatic parts work, intuitive energy healing, neuroplasticity type of techniques, and along with a long journey prior. If you've been following me for a while, you'll have seen that I was in a wheelchair for a while, that I was on full bed rest for quite a significant amount of time. And this is where I'm at now. So, heading to these family dinners tonight, I want to share a few of the strategies that I'm using to make sure that these events and me going and participating in these events contributes to my healing rather than to going backwards, and how I continue my healing process while participating in life and actually leaving the house and getting out there, because I know that that's not the reality for everybody, and I know that it takes time and effort and intentional practices to get our bodies to a place where we can even leave our beds, let alone leave the house. And when we do begin those processes of leaving the house and of getting out there and getting back into the world again, there's this balance and often this fear that has been really programmed into us throughout our recovery, that if we are getting up and we're leaving the house and we're going to events or we're going to do things and we're expending energy, then it's going to reduce our recovery or send us into post-exertional malaise or set us back to some degree in some way. Okay, basically that we are going to pay a price physically for going out and experiencing life. And while that is often true, it is not always true. So I want to talk to you about some of the things that I'm doing to make sure that this weekend contributes to my healing rather than sets me backwards. So, one of the really important pieces is that I am focusing on joy and gratitude. I'm going to be fully transparent that I am not having the best weekend physically. I am feeling pretty stretched. My daughter was sick earlier this week and needed a lot from me. My energy got expended in many ways that I was not expecting and that I did not account for. So, come today, my body's kind of feeling like, is it really worth it to go to this dinner? So first, what I did was actually take honest inventory with myself. What is my capacity? What is this dinner going to require of me? What is going to be needed from me if I go and if I don't go? And what does that look like in regards to what fills me back up and what brings me joy and what expands my capacity? And can I work rest in here somewhere? And how much rest do I really need? And how much do I need to actually go out and experience life and connect with other people? So one of the pieces is really focusing on joy. I had to also be up very early this morning for like an Easter egg hunt, right, with my children, and up late last night navigating the prep for what comes when you're a parent with an Easter egg hunt the next morning. So some of the pieces of joy that I am really leaning into is that I love Easter egg hunts. I love that part of Easter more than any other part of it. I realize that if I'm speaking to anybody who has a religious background, that we might have different views on that. But for myself, growing up, Easter egg hunts were so much fun. They're one of my favorite childhood memories. We had these epic, massive Easter egg hunts on Main Island, one of the Gulf Islands in the south coast of BC. And they were huge, they were fun, they were outdoors. It was really fun, connected family time in a way that we didn't always get growing up. And then on Main Island, it's a really small community, and they would put together this like community event, and we would go and have another Easter egg hunt with games, and I would have three-leg races with my grandpa who has passed on now and stuff like that. So as I'm, you know, preparing for the Easter egg hunt for this morning, and as I'm getting out of bed this morning when I didn't really feel up for it, and navigating all of the sensory input and everything else that comes with an Easter egg hunt, I was really focusing on that connection to joy, that connection to gratitude, and where I could feel it in my body, what that sensation is actually like when you are living it inside of your body. So I'm not just thinking about these fond memories or how much I enjoy this. I'm actually allowing myself to sit in that feeling, in that sensation in my body, and letting it land fully and be experienced and be felt throughout my physical body rather than just in my mind. As I'm preparing for the family dinner tonight, the aspect of joy that I am focusing on is that this dinner got set on the date that it did for my stepson, so that my stepson could be a part of it. So this is my extended family. They did this of their own accord. They reached out to us and said, what day do you have your stepson, and can we move Easter so that he can come? So that's a huge, huge piece of gratitude and joy and love and appreciation and respect that they have for me and my chosen family, and that I have for them as being a part of that, and incorporating that and considering that at all. And so I'm really leaning into that joy and that gratitude to them for being the type of people that they are, and for showing up in my life in the ways that they do, and for my kids, and like that includes my bonus kid, and really choosing to love us in that way and to show up for us in that way, right? The other piece of joy and gratitude and connection that I'm leaning into here is that I'll get to see, you know, some other family members who I really enjoy, who I don't get to see as often and I don't get to connect with as often. Back when I was a hairstylist, I got to connect with certain people, friends, family, whoever, in a one-on-one way, you know, once a month or every 6 weeks or so, when they would come in and sit in my chair for a haircut, and we got to have really more in-depth conversations and a different type of connection than what you can get when you just see each other like kind of at family gatherings and holidays. We're not the type of family that gets together very often. And so I do have a couple of family members who I really enjoy seeing and connecting with, but they're just not the type of people who I'm going to see and connect with all the time on a regular basis, especially because we just live different lifestyles and we frequent different spaces, right? So I'm leaning into that joy and that gratitude that I'm going to see a couple of them and that I'm going to have the opportunity to connect with them. I'm also noticing and allowing myself to notice the relief and the spaciousness that I feel, knowing that certain people who I have some conflict with, or who I wasn't really sure how I would feel about seeing them, spending time with them, how the interactions would go, things like that. We all have that, okay? So this is not like a unique thing to me, but I don't know anyone who in their family system does not have a few people who they're a little bit unsure about, at least sometimes, right? So I'm in a circumstance like that right now where I was feeling a little bit unsure, a little bit unsteady in my body about how I would respond to certain people, how I would interact with them, or how they might respond or interact with me. And they're not going to be coming. And when you do the work that I do, when you are connected to universal energies and you are connected with your higher self and inward with your own self and your own intuition, to be honest, a lot of these things happen to get taken care of for you. Okay, I didn't have to do anything to put myself in this position where I wouldn't have to navigate that today. That happened completely outside of my realm, completely outside of me or my being, and was something that happened unrelated to me, outside of myself. I don't even need to know the details. I just know that they won't be there. And so when you are working with energetics in the way that I am, and universal divine protection the way that I am all the time in my professional life, but also in my personal life, it's very common for these things to just kind of start to like work themselves out around you. And if they didn't, it becomes easier and easier to just lean into trust that you are in the right place at the right time, that the people who are around you are meant to be around you, and that things are working out the way that they are meant to work out, as long as you are connected inward with yourself, upward with source and your higher self, and that you are acting in alignment with what's in highest and best of everyone involved. Things just start to sort themselves out on your behalf without you needing to control them. And that is such a massive relief and blessing, to be able to have that trust and that faith, to be able to just drop the reins a little bit and let go, and to know that you're going to be okay and you're going to be taken care of, and that, you know, the universe is going to show up for you and serve in a way that supports you, right? So one of the other pieces that I am focusing on to make sure that this weekend serves my health and my healing rather than sets me back is I'm being really honest with myself about my current capacity. So I mentioned earlier that my daughter was sick earlier this week, that my capacity is lower, my energy envelope is feeling pretty empty. Whether you want to talk about like spoons or an energy battery or an energy envelope, like I'm running on low, right? And so being really honest with myself about what that capacity is and what that means allows me to not only make the decisions that are, you know, better for me moving forward, but it also allows me to give myself a little bit of grace, give myself a little bit of preparation for what might happen in the days to come and what I might need from myself, and to show up for myself in a different way that offers healing back to me instead of pulling from me or taking from me. So this means that I'm going to be able to make intentional decisions about where to push myself and where not to, and have that honest inventory of what that might mean in the coming days. So for me, I've decided that it is in alignment for me to go to this dinner tonight. I actually did consider staying home, but I decided that that was just not the right call for me and for my family this weekend. So I'm going to go. It's going to stretch me probably a little bit. And there's a few things that I'm doing to accommodate myself and to kind of counteract that stretchedness that this might have. So I'm going to allow myself to go imperfectly. I might not, you know, have a fresh shower and have my hair perfectly done, and like curly haired people, you're going to know the battle. Like if I wanted to have dry hair at this event this afternoon, I needed to shower like 8 hours before it, and I didn't. So either I will show up with like wet, kind of soggy looking hair, but freshly showered, or I will decide that like it's okay that I showered yesterday, that I don't need to be perfect for this event today. I'm clean, I'm not smelly. I'll put on some clean clothes. I'll make sure that those clothes are comfortable and something that is going to help me feel safe and contained and comfortable throughout this dinner. To be honest, that might mean wearing like track pants, and nobody in my family is gonna care, right? It's me that would have cared about showing up in track pants. Normally I'd like to show up in like a dress or something a little bit, you know, nicer looking. And I just don't think this is the year for that. I think I'm probably going to show up in something that holds my body a little bit differently, creates a little bit more containment. And so for me, that means a little bit more pressure in the front of my body, like being able to hold, so maybe some high-waisted leggings or some track pants with like one of those thicker waistbands that kind of holds and compresses you a little bit, because this cues to your nervous system a sense of safety that a lack of containment does not. And so if I was feeling really good today and I wasn't worried about my nervous system or my capacity or anything like that, I'd probably wear a dress. I'd wear something that's like nicer and flowier and, has a bit more movement to it. But because I am a little bit concerned about my nervous system and my health overall, I think I need a little bit more pressure, a little bit more physical containment, cueing through those proprioceptive lenses to my nervous system that you're safe, that I am safe. And so I think that's going to come into my clothing choices today to support me. It also means that I'm probably not going to stretch myself in the coming days, right? So for the next 2 days, I will probably clear my calendar. I probably won't go to one of the events that I was hoping to go to tomorrow. That's not really a big deal for me to miss. It's just like my own FOMO, right? It's like my own desire to go to this event that was the draw. And I will also make plans with myself. So after this dinner tonight, after my kids are home and my daughter's in bed and things are taken care of, my plans with myself are to like curl up and watch Netflix, right? So to really spend some time in nurturing myself in whatever way that looks like for me tonight. And so what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't mean that I'm going to come home and do a whole bunch of like spiritual or energetic or somatic work. I might, if that's like what comes alive in my system when I get there. But honestly, my plans are to like hit the bed with my laptop and watch a couple Netflix episodes and go to bed early. This healing work is work, it's energy expenditure, it's effort. So it's really important that between each of those heavier healing pieces, we are letting ourselves just like be human, just kind of veg out, just relax, just, let the next show on Netflix play automatically without us stopping it or considering like what we should be doing or what we need to be doing next. Okay, so that's going to be my plans with myself tonight after this like higher energy expenditure, higher sensory input, more people kind of visit. I'm also going to make sure that I create some space for low sensory productive rest. Okay, so what that means is productive rest is going to look different for everybody depending on what stage of recovery you are in and what your energy envelope looks like and your capacity looks like day to day. But for me, productive rest is often now at this stage, it used to be like lying in bed, lights out, blinds down, like couldn't have any lights on, couldn't have any sound, couldn't look at a screen, couldn't speak to anybody, couldn't eat, nothing. Like I had to just lie still in a dark place with zero sensory input whatsoever. At this stage of my recovery, my rest has to change too, right? My recovery time has to change too. So for me, that means maybe going for like a short walk in nature with low sensory. And that means probably not taking my kids with me, right? Going for a short walk in nature where I can enjoy the sensory input, the natural sensory input of nature without the sensory input of a kid tugging on my arm or talking at me or screeching at me or whining because, their shoe's not on the right way or like whatever it might be, right? So truly low sensory input, but in a way that brings energy back to me, that feeds me, rather than just like lying in a dark room with the lights off, because that's just not where I'm at anymore. It's not what I need anymore. One of the other most important pieces that I want to mention is that throughout today and the coming days, and even during dinner tonight, I will be continuing to check in with my body. So I will be coming back to my body, reconnecting with my body over and over and over again to evaluate, how am I right now? What needs my attention? Do I feel safe right now? Am I connected with my body right now? Or am I like really up here? Because for us highly sensitive people, like in a room full of people, we can very quickly have all of our energy shoot like way up to our head, because all of a sudden we are picking up on the energetic input, energetic imprint from every other person in that room, right? And that can be like a very quick way to energetic overload. So I'll get to some protection mechanisms for this after, but one of the things that I will be doing is just taking a moment to pause. And I can do this like, because when you practice this for a very long time, you can do this anywhere and in almost any situation. So I know I have confidence in my abilities to be even just like at the dinner table surrounded by people, and to take a moment to just pause and reconnect and to tune in and to feel the weight of my body in the chair and to notice my feet on the ground and to feel, does it feel as though I'm sinking into the surface beneath me, or does it feel as though the surface beneath me is holding me up? Do I feel like I have more connection to the energy in the front of my body or the top of my body? Or do I feel like I have more connection in the back of my body or the lower half of my body? And each of these things is going to cue me to what I need next or how I might be doing in that moment. It's also going to bring me back into connection with any symptoms that I might be experiencing, which is why many of us disconnect from our bodies in the first place, right? Because we can't tolerate the symptoms, it's too much. So when I come back into my body in those moments, I might be hit with uncomfortable sensations. But the more that I can reconnect and to be with those sensations and to allow them to be there without that resistance, the less intrusive they tend to become, and the less I will pay for it later, is kind of what I'm saying, right? They won't need to come back and scream at me tonight or tomorrow, because I will have been like titrating back into my body throughout the dinner tonight. Now, as far as energetic protections go and psychic protections for highly sensitive people, this is a no-brainer for me. This is like more important than having a shower to me. This is your daily energetic hygiene to me. And so if you're not already familiar with that, there's like lots of different ways to explore it. I teach it inside of the Embodied Soul with Denise Alyssa community. I teach it obviously in my one-on-one sessions as well, but that's a bit of a higher tier. But the Embodied Soul with Denise Alyssa community is my accessible route to learning this. And there's a blend of on-demand content and live sessions, but this energy hygiene piece has guided practices, energetic transmissions, meditations right there in the app for you to access at any time you want. And that's intentional, because people need those practices on days like I'm having today, right? People need those practices all the time in their day-to-day life when they can't necessarily access a practitioner for a one-on-one session. So for myself, I will be doing those practices to clear my energy field, to clear and cut cords, to ground my energy system, to connect with my body, and to place energetic and psychic protections around me before I go into this event. So that when I walk into a room full of people who are all in various stages of health, disease, connection to themselves, disconnection to themselves, like they're all in their own stuff, I don't want to take on all of that stuff as if it's my own. I want to be able to sit in that room and observe the energy with discernment and healthy detachment, so that what's theirs can stay theirs and what's mine can stay mine, and I can have a clear differentiator between what is yours and what is mine, so that I don't have to feel their stuff in my body as if it's my own, because that is how I lived most of my life. That is a lot of what brought me to the level of illness that I got to in the first place. And being able to really have those healthy energetic boundaries is a life-changing, health-changing situation. So that is one of the most crucial pieces that I will be doing, and that I highly, highly recommend that you do as well if you don't already. Chances are, if you're here watching this, and if you're still watching this, you are probably a highly sensitive person. So one of the last pieces that I will mention, because my timer just went off for my sourdough focaccia, that's what I'm bringing. I'll touch on that after. So is really letting myself feel whatever needs to be felt in the moment. So even if that means like stepping out to the bathroom to just really let it through my system and to connect and to ground through whatever it is that I need to do, not bypassing the sensations of the body, the symptoms, the messages within it is key to being able to go and participate in life and experience life while continuing to heal and recover, and to let that healing to let those experiences of being out in the world again be part of the healing instead of a hindrance to it. So for many of you, you will already know that I live with mast cell activation syndrome, that I was on the highest therapeutic level dosages of multiple antihistamines and mast cell stabilizers, and I was still going into anaphylaxis. And so I am in the process now of coming off of all of those. I have been able to do massive amounts of healing on myself to get to the point of being able to...
They're for you.
They're for me? Thank you. I'm just right in the middle of something. Can I come out in a second?
No, those are the seasons.
They're so pretty.
This one's winter, and this one's winter. This one is the next season, the next season, and next season. So it goes. Next, 1 season, 2 season, 3 season, 4 season.
Wow.
They're
so pretty. I'm going to come out in a couple of minutes, okay? Because I have to check the oven, but I'm just right in the middle of something.
Who is it?
It's just a video. It's a recording. Okay?
So it's just you.
Just me. Thank you. Okay, so sorry, where was I? Many of you will know that I'm in the process of coming off of all of my mast cell activation syndrome meds. I'm down to just like a small fraction. I'm just taking one pill a day instead of like, I think it was like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pills a day before. And I was still going into anaphylaxis. So anyways, long story short, if you haven't actually checked out my free mast cell activation syndrome somatic experiencing lesson, then please feel free to check that out. It's inside of Embodied Soul with Denise Alyssa community. I created a free basic membership tier so that you can just access that lesson on its own instead of having to pay to come into the community and access everything else. So I'll try to link that below or something if I can, depending on what platform you're watching this on. But anyways, a couple of years ago, while I was still in the thick of my anaphylaxis and mast cell activation stuff, I went to Easter dinner at this same house that I'll be going to today, and I had a really severe reaction and I had to leave. And one of the things that I have seen to be true in my own experience, and I have witnessed it in a lot of my guests that I work with as well, is that as we taper off of the medications that were once suppressing those sensations, there is a healing process that comes with that, because once those sensations are no longer repressed, they still have to come through the body in some way to be explored so that we can look at what was underneath that sensation in the first place. So part of the reason that I'm going off of my medication so slowly is so that I have the safety and the capacity to actually work with those sensations as they arise in my system, instead of having to bypass them or having to suppress them further with more medication. And because I have been in very unsafe situations in the past with the mast cell activation syndrome, and I don't want to experience that again. I want to make sure that I am really honoring my body and my system throughout this healing process, and supporting myself in the way that will allow this healing to continue instead of creating more issues in the process. So that means that today, when I am at this dinner, because I'm returning to a place where high mast cell activation symptoms had come on in the past, it is possible that that will trigger an influx of sensation for me to work with. So there's a couple of things that I'm doing there. One is that I am obviously keeping backup medication with me to make sure that if something does happen and I actually do need it, if I actually was to go into anaphylaxis or something similar, then I would have what I need to keep my physical body safe, because that safety piece has to come first always. And I don't believe in bypassing the safety piece just to avoid medication. That is just not how I do things. It's not what I feel is right for a situation that comes with the potential consequences that mast cell activation syndrome comes with. So I will have my backup medication with me just in case, but also I will be bringing with me a connection to my body and an awareness that this might be something that comes up for me either at the event, during the event, or after the event. And because I will have that awareness going in, I also have a bit more space to be with those sensations as they come up and to explore this as they come up. So if you haven't seen my video yet on the somatic lesson for mast cell activation syndrome, I thought that I was going into anaphylaxis, and I was able to connect with and tune into my system and to realize that no, in this particular circumstance, I was not going into anaphylaxis. This was sensation that was trying to come up through my body to be explored so that I could go into what was underneath those sensations. So I used this as an opportunity to actually record myself in the moment, in real time, working with sensation in a somatic and intuitive energy healing way, while narrating and speaking out some other education to the viewer to support you in understanding, like, what do we do with this? Like, we learn somatic stuff, we learn somatic inquiry, somatic parts work, but like, how do we apply this in the moment in our own bodies in a way that actually serves us and is safe? So in this lesson, there's like a full, I think it's like an hour-long video, and then there's a lot of written content as well to support you. If you haven't checked it out yet, even if you don't have mast cell activation syndrome or throat tightness or air hunger or any of those sensations that I was referencing, like disorientation and dizziness and nausea, then this really can be applied to any symptoms, any physical sensation and symptoms that you might be experiencing. So I highly recommend checking that out if you're interested in learning how to do this more, and it's free. So I think that just about wraps up a lot of the pieces that I will be doing for myself. Oh, I was going to mention the sourdough. So one of the other pieces that I am doing to take care of myself this weekend is that I did not offer to bring any food. I did ask my family members when they first invited me if they wanted me to bring anything, and they didn't sound like they needed anything, so I didn't push it. And in the past, I would have felt very responsible for contributing to this meal in a specific way, and I would have committed myself to a specific type of food and honestly, I'm really glad that I didn't, because when it came to this weekend, I don't really have the capacity for it. Chances are that the family members who invited us knew that I might not have the capacity for it, and that's why they didn't ask me to. But I often would have, like, those people pleasing parts in me would have overridden that before, and then would have suggested, oh, I'll bring the potatoes or whatever. So, what I've done instead, because I still like to contribute, I really like to bring a hostess gift. I like to serve people in that way when I can, is that I just made a sourdough focaccia. And I also made, I was going to be making bread anyways, so I made an extra loaf. And I'll bring the extra loaf as a hostess gift, and I'll bring the focaccia as my contribution to the meal. And sourdough is one of those things that, like, it takes multiple days to make, but on the actual baking day and each piece of itself is not a huge amount of labor depending on how you do it. So especially focaccia is so forgiving. And I didn't tell anybody that I was going to be bringing it. So if it didn't work out, or if I was just too low on capacity, or if I actually had to mix it up today, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I do cold proofing, which means that I, mix it ahead of time, and then it sits in the fridge until I'm ready to bake it, which might be a day or two later. So all I really had to do today was pop it in the oven. So because I didn't commit to anything, and I intentionally didn't tell them to expect this from me, now, because it did work out, I get to just show up with it. But if it didn't work out, if my capacity didn't allow for it, nobody would have known the difference, and I wouldn't have had that feeling of letting somebody down, which is a very hard feeling for me to tolerate. So, whatever you're doing this weekend, whenever you're watching this, whether it's your Easter family situation as well, or you're watching this later and maybe going to a different family event or something else, I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're placing your energetic protections. I hope you're staying connected to your body. And I hope that you are taking an honest inventory of your capacity and what that means for you over the coming days. And also, I hope you're really considering, like, what will support you, what will serve you in being able to show up to this event and to allow this event to contribute to your healing instead of become a hindrance to it. So again, that might mean, offering yourself a little bit of containment through the clothes that you choose, bringing earplugs to reduce sensory input, making sure that you have your electrolytes, making sure that you have, like, backup medication just in case you need it, things like that. Doing whatever it is that you need to do to serve and support yourself is going to make such a massive difference. And also being able to remain connected to your body and to your system, and tracking your system and what it needs when it needs it, being with what is asking to come up and to come through you when those situations arise, is going to really support and contribute to letting these events be part of your healing. We need to, at some point, sometimes, get back to life. And there are ways to get back to life that contribute to your healing rather than against it. So much love to you. I hope this served.